Hi, welcome to MapleWoodian.com podcast. We have on the phone the recently successful school board member-elect duo of Anne-Marie and Chris Sabin. How you doing, folks?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Anne-Marie, how are you?
Thank you. Everything is great.
Now, of course, we have you both on the phone, which makes it interesting to try to talk to you both, but that's more fun, I think, because then you can both be in on the same conversations. Please sort of speak as you wish. And, of course, you both won pretty handily in the recent school board election. 9 people running for 3 seats, including 2 incumbents. Only one of the incumbents won, Madhu Pai, and then it was Mr. Sabin and Anne-Marie, you both leading the pack pretty handily. What do you attribute to the victory? Was it one thing you think you did well or that came out, or was it a couple of things? Anne-Marie, how about you first?
Sure. I think it was, as you mentioned earlier, one, just a heightened awareness with 9 people running that this is a board that needs attention from the community, that there are people in the community who want to work hard and answer the tough questions and dig into the issues. And I think the general awareness helped get our name out there. And then, you know, we could not have done this without our volunteers. Every volunteer that helped us, from everything from installing the lawn signs to writing the op-eds to hosting coffees, but most importantly, talking to their neighbors, reaching out to their friends, and making sure that our platform and our issues were clearly understood in the community.
And Chris, what do you think was the final thing that did it?
Yeah, no, I think what Anne-Marie just to ditto that one, but it was not just us, but all 9 of us were out there talking to people, and I think we really got a chance for the community, one, to talk then for the last 2 to 3 months. Now we have to take that and move it forward and get everybody to stay engaged and to stay positive and to stay motivated to make sure that we're all going to make sure that everybody is talking about, as the example, the Education Summit that's coming up tomorrow.
Yes.
And getting the community to come out and really find ways that we can all work together. I mean, our efforts for getting this out there were, as Anne-Marie mentioned, lawn signs and making sure that the community as a whole can hear what's happening, what we feel is passionate, and what we want to hear from them. And we think we did a good job of doing that.
You mentioned the summit. Are you both going to go to the summit?
Yes.
Yes, I'm actually a scribe because as member of President's Council, they had asked us to have people who would scribe as well as facilitate.
Now, you are a member of the President's Council. What is that? Tell people who don't know, and what do you do there?
That is the organization of all PTA, HSA, and special ed, PTO, and CPAC. They're all of the current presidents serve on the President's Council.
And you are a current president of which, for people who don't know?
I'm actually on the executive board, which is a past president of a PTA or HSA, and I was most recently of South Orange Middle School. So I'm currently parliamentarian of President's Council. We just rewrote our bylaws to make it clear of who is eligible, and one of the things that we all decided as a team is that if you're serving on the school board or if you are employed by the school district, that you should actually step down. So we also just updated our bylaws to make that very clear.
When was that done?
Last month.
Oh, okay, very good. Now,
September, October.
Chris, you mentioned the Education Summit, so I'll ask you this. We've been a little, I won't say critical, but at least awaiting confirmation on if the Education Summit's going to really do anything. It seems to have very general issues and topics. Some people think it's just a way to kind of look like there's something being done. How can the school district and you going on the school board make sure things raised at the summit, which is getting a lot of support, follow through on? how can things from the summit be later followed through and make sure that things are put in place, and that other things are not followed that maybe aren't worth following? It's easy to have a summit. How do you take that and put it to work in specifics and policies?
Yeah. No, I mean, we're going to have to work with the administration,
Mm-hmm.
work with the superintendent, and make sure that what the community is going to come up with items or areas that are of need that we want to follow through on. And we're going to have to, our job is, as we've said this over the last couple of months, is to help make sure that policies are being followed through on, and make sure that we are being heard, and make sure the communities, so that when we're coming back with particular things that need to come through, that this summit will make sure that the community as a whole is going to be heard. So we're going to have to follow through on it. It's not just going to be us. It's going to be speaking to the superintendent and speaking to anybody and everybody who's involved. And we're going to make sure, and particularly for us, working with the existing board members, because we are the two new guys on the block.
Anne-Marie, what do you see to get out of the Education Summit, or do you have to kind of wait and see what unfolds?
Both Chris and I tend to be much more positive take on things. I think anytime a community has an opportunity to get together and talk about these issues in a face-to-face with real, deliberate conversation with good facilitators, I think is a positive. But more importantly, I do think some things are going to come out that will impact our budget process.
Yes.
So we have to. I mean, I'm just looking at the list that came out. School safety, rebalancing elementary enrollment, even family school connections, extended school day. Some of these things I can see right off needing not only a prioritization from the community, prioritization from the administration, but then we're going to have to allocate resources against those programs.
Now, you both did fill out the questionnaire for us, which I appreciate, as did other candidates. And I asked about Dr. Ramos. You both seem to be supportive of him, but is also saying that the board has to make sure it does its part with the superintendent in terms of making sure that issues are of import to the board are followed, and that I think, Anne-Marie, you used the phrase exercise its oversight authority. How do you sort of take his work and as he still eases into the district to be able to support him but make sure he's doing what the board and the district needs?
Again, I think it goes from my outsider view, because I don't know until we're actually serving on the board and we learn our different roles. But one of the things that Chris and I were talking about earlier was the SAGE preliminary report came out in, was that August or September? And yes, it was a preliminary report, but one of the glaring points that I'm totally blanking on her name. I can see her.
There were a lot of questions that came up in terms of the district's actions.
But
yes.
just collecting data. So I hate not talking about people and they're using their full name, but she got up and she said we're trying to piece together how someone moves through the discipline process.
Right.
But it's not electronic. We're not capturing everything. It's not easy to reconcile back. And are we capturing the students who may have had an intervention prior to getting to, the final point? So, my question would be, this is a very important topic. This is work for the resolution. This is a consultant that we've hired to help us work through these issues. Have we started to collect the data? Are we waiting for a final report, or are we actually putting in some I don't want to call them stopgap, but are we moving quickly to find where SAGE has identified our deficiencies so that we can, really help get to the root of what these issues are.
And Chris, what's your take? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So that is one of the things that I would say. We have to trust that the administration is moving forward, but the board also has to ask these questions. Give us an
and
update
ask them on a
that.
regular basis. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
this is stuff that it is, whether it's 2 months, it needs to just be followed up on, and I think board members, as well as the community, because we are part of the community, and people are asking those questions of us. We hear it as we were running, like, what are the next steps? And board members were asking those same questions, well, what are the next steps of SAGE? But I think everybody should SAGE should have done a good job of, everybody should understand what's going to happen next. This was just a preliminary report, but we need to have better follow-up all the way around.
And now, Anne-Marie, for people who heard along the way, I want to sort of put to rest two things that kind of came up that I think people were unclear about. Number one,
Sure.
the school that you run and operate,
Yes.
It's a daycare
South
school,
Orange.
or
Yep,
you tell me?
South Orange Country Day School.
Which
We're a
go ahead.
preschool with a kindergarten program. We are licensed by the Department of Children and Families, which used to be called DIFAS, but now it's Department of
Right.
Children and Families. Yep.
And you've been running that how long?
I bought it in December 2007.
Excellent. And there was
my children were here for a year and a half before that, or maybe 2 years before that. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, an issue came up. There was funding that came, I believe, from the state that went through the school district to that school. Some people were wrongly assuming it was district money that went to the school, and I know we wrote to clarify that. But I wanted you I want to be able to clarify it even more so people don't get the wrong idea that
Sure.
you were getting money from the district. It was other funding that goes through as a pass-through for many things, correct?
Right.
Okay.
It is a pass-through. The first one was for the most of the conversation, and I'm just trying to pull up my little report here. It was for technical aid, textbooks, and nursing. This is money allocated from the state to private schools, and the nursing portion is paid directly to Maplewood Township, as they provide a nurse that comes and checks all of the student immunization records and their universal health care. So that money is allocated to South Orange Country Day School from the state through the school district. That money for nursing goes directly to Maplewood Township.
Because they provide nursing and it reimburses them. Okay, that makes sense.
Right. They provide the nursing.
Now, why doesn't the money that goes to you just go directly to you? This is how the state does it for whatever reason?
I guess this is how the state does it. And then they also allocated money for textbooks, which I have not taken. It is unspent. If you look at the report, the only year it was spent was in the transition year, the 2008-2009, because the previous director had already she'd already ordered the materials. I have no other way to say that. Mm-hmm. But 2009, it's 0, 2010, it's 0, 2011, 0, 2012, it's 0, 2013, 2014, 2015, it's going to be 0. So that's it. And tech aid, I never took, I personally, yes, this is money that the state allocates to private schools. Personally, I don't think that private schools should get that money, but that's my own my own stance. And the other thing is that they've most recently added a security line. I think this is the first year that I have been allocated $275 through non-public security aid, and I have written a letter to Ms. Schneider officially declining that money because I've spent my own money upgrading the security as in cooperation with our police department and the fire department.
And you'll continue to run the day school as you're serving on the school board? I think a lot of people know what your background. I think they decide that your background with the day school is much more of a positive for you to be on the school board, and no negative. I can't see what the negative would be. And do you know other schools in the area that have gotten the same funding? I'm sure there are many others. So this isn't anything unusual.
No, this is not.
Yeah.
This funding part is not unusual. Our Lady of Sorrows receives funds. And you're right. There are.
So we just want to make clear. This was because things get. When I first saw it, I thought it was, and then you realize what the truth is, and it's just the process they use.
You know, and when Miss Johanna Wright brought it up, she was really looking from, well, if preschools get extra money from the state, maybe Montrose can get extra money.
Sure.
But again, as Ms. Schneider explained, this is for non-public allocations from the state, and Montrose is considered, public because it's paid for by the school district.
Right. I just think people need to be aware of that. Another thing I know came up when we did our financial disclosures reporting. I know you were, and Mr. Sabin was a little concerned. We wrote that you had loaned yourself a certain amount of money, which is the way the statements read. But I want to give you a chance if there's a reason to explain. And again, there's nothing wrong with loaning yourself money. This is what campaigns do. But he made it appear there was a little lack of clarity. I want to let you have a chance to clarify that.
Right. So, and we have met all our reports.
Right, and I think we said that as well in our story, that not everything was filed, but it didn't have to be filed, and then, of course, the state doesn't always post everything right away either. We made that clear. But I want to give you a chance to make clear what that was about.
So very simply, we were dutifully fundraising and collecting money so that we could pay for all of the lawn signs and the mailings and the postcards. And then our bank account got closed by accident from our bank.
Ooh.
And they had not completed the know your customer form, even though we had gone in and had opened it in person, etc. So they were very quickly able to reopen it, keep the same account number, but the way banks work is they close the account and clear the account and send a check, a paper check from California that took 6 days to get here. So that's why we were using personal loans as a way to, we knew we had the money, it just wasn't available to us, and that's why we used a personal credit card instead of the card linked to the account.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'm glad we could clear the air on those things.
Yes, thank you.
No, we want to be accurate.
It just meant a lot more filings on the because now more paperwork. But and we did before we used the personal credit card for the loan, we had called ELAC, New Jersey ELAC, just to make sure that we were able to keep track of everything the way they needed it, kept track of, and filed it appropriately. And you'll see even in the last filing, even a $10.03 charge, whatever it was for, has to now be reported, and that's what we did.
Excellent. Well, let me get back to the campaign. So, Chris, let me ask you, what do you think what was the one issue that set you two apart? Because you won together. I mean, it was really interesting to see how you both led so much. It was obvious people were voting for the two of you together, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, going back to us, we've been involved in the community from parents on the sidelines, whether it's for sports, football, basketball, lacrosse, people, for myself, as well as Anne-Marie, we all care about the communities, and it's not just one area of town. It is for everybody, and every child matters. And that's what, for us, I know resonated, whether it was for, again, whether it was, as people will talk about, is the achievement gap.
Right.
Not the. I mean, that's the 800-pound gorilla in the room most of the time. But during the campaign, everybody was very comfortable in wanting to find out more and what do we think about it, and how are we going to help deliver a better school for everybody. And I think when having conversations with people, whether it was at the train station or having conversations at Bunny's, people, after they got a chance to speak to us and meet us, they realized that we care about everybody. And we want to make sure that we are listening to everybody and listening to what the concerns are for not just one group, but for everybody that is going to be affected by the dollars that are going to be spent moving forward.
Yeah, and I know in our questionnaire you both mentioned budget, and we always write about, I'm big on just asking what things cost and just reporting what does it cost, where's the money coming from, how does it affect taxes. I think you both raised the issue of budget. Did that seem to resonate a lot with voters that you spoke with?
Yeah, it resonated in an interesting way. They, people just want to know that where we're spending is aligned to what we are as a community agreeing are our priorities. And there's obviously a lot of tension with keeping our taxes low, but they really, our community wants to make sure that we're getting the resources to our schools, that we know where our priorities are, that our money is allocated against those priorities. And then if there are gaps, the community wants to know. The community wants to know where are we falling short? What are we leaving on the table? Because that's when you can start looking at alternative funding sources. You can look at different private-public partnerships. You can start to motivate our creative community to come up with solutions. But if we don't know right now where our money is going and where are we falling short, you can't even wade through the $128 million, right?
Yeah. People can't even offer up options or opportunities for us, because there are a lot of partners in our community that would, if given the opportunity, they would be happy not to help out, but to really work and to join forces with us so that we can do it together.
And Chris, how did you two find each other? Do you know each other for a long time, or how did you hook up? Because it's interesting, you're both, one from South Orange, one from Maplewood. You somewhat different backgrounds, I would assume. And how did you link up to run?
So
Packers.
Yes.
Oh, football.
Yeah, football.
Okay, well, very good. You both had children who played for the Packers, the youth group.
Packers
and Chris, you coached, didn't you?
No, I was one of the parent. The title would be commissioner.
Ah, well, that's even probably more important than coaching.
Oh yeah, he was the important guy.
Yeah, but you got to make sure that they're making the correct weight, which for a lot of them, not that it's a challenge, but it's a challenge for the adults in the room, because everybody, I always want to see the kids play and have fun, but there are a lot of rules out there. You got to make sure that we are following them and that the kids are safe and protected.
Excellent. Now, how old are both of your children now?
Well,
Chris?
I have 3.
Right. And they're what ages, and boys, girls?
2 boys and a girl, 15, 13, and 11.
And so then the 15-year-old would be at Columbia?
At Columbia.
Right.
And then the other 2 are at South Orange Middle.
Which one was the Packer player?
Both boys played for the Packers. My middle one just finished his last year playing this past fall with a tough loss in the second game of the playoffs they had.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And which one was the other one? The older one?
The older one, yeah.
Does he play on the Columbia's teams? Because the Columbia team has been doing well.
The Columbia team has turned themselves around.
Just got enough playoffs, as we reported yesterday. Hopefully they can do something with that.
Yeah. No, he decided not to play football anymore, and he's focusing on lacrosse.
Excellent. And how about you, Anne-Marie? Your young ones are what ages? Remind us.
Yeah, so I have Dilshare is 15 years old, and Sumer is 13, and they have Dilshire just finished up his sophomore year at Blair, and they won their football game on Saturday.
Blair Academy?
Blair Academy.
Which is out western New Jersey, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, almost near the Delaware Water Gap.
And how about the other one?
And Sumer has left football because for 2 years he was offensive line, defensive line in every play and never touched the ball. So now he is they're both of my boys play rugby, and they are really enjoying playing rugby.
Where does the younger one go? Also Blair Academy?
Oh, he's at Tom's.
Excellent. And then, now here's another thing came up. Why? And I know you're busy. Again, we're talking to Anne-Marie Maney and Chris Sabin, who were the newly elected members of the school board, winning a week ago handily in the school board race. And we're going to let you go in a moment. I had two other quick questions. Why didn't you seek a third candidate to run with? Just the two of you. Did no one you wanted to run with, or how did that? That's kind of an interesting thought, since there were 3 seats.
Yeah, that's a tough question.
Not that you had to have a third candidate. You did fine without him. I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, it was, we had started talking about this in April, May, Chris. Is that fair?
April.
Yeah, April. It took a while for just the two of us to talk through the issues, make sure that we both had, not that we agreed on everything, but that we had a similar
thought process,
and then just thinking through how to manage calendars, kids' sports and everything, adding a third person in there might have been a little more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just didn't have a third that stepped up in that time frame. But, I almost wish we had had the debates, and then we could have selected, I think particularly Dorcas Lind, has got some wonderful experience and some fantastic ideas, and both Chris and I are going to make sure that we speak with her about, some of the things that she brings to the table. And then, there's as you mentioned, there's elections every year, so hopefully someone else will want to run next year.
You also had an interesting. We did an analysis of some of the mailers, which I personally am curious about why and how mailers are organized. And one of the things that seemed to jump out of yours, at least the one we received, was this long list of supporters and endorsements. And the people I've talked to said that could have been a really important part, because in a school board race, you may not meet everyone, and although you made a real effort and seemed like you really touched and met as many people as you could, but if someone sees the name of someone they like and supporting you, how did that sort of come about, and do you think that really helped? Chris, I'll ask you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it goes back to promotions, marketing, and people will align themselves with people want to align themselves with people like-minded, so we're all in these towns together, and if they see a friend or a neighbor or somebody who they respect that are putting themselves out there, that they know, they'll say, oh, well, so-and-so's there, and he co-signs, then I'm going to align myself with that person. And the other groups did similar things, but I think we just took it to a different level.
Yeah, I don't think they had the wide array of support at least on their campaign information that you guys did. I think that's important. And obviously, again, you have one of you from one town, one from the other. How was it to campaign in these two towns? I know we saw you at the train station. We saw you running in the Newstead race.
Walking.
Well, you were doing it more than I was.
One was walking, one was running.
You were moving along. How was it is it harder to campaign in two towns than one, or is it kind of not really a big deal? Were you able to cover all the ground you wanted?
I mean, they're two towns, but it's really, especially for school.
It's and sports, and Yeah, I don't see us as I. Hopefully, I won't alienate anybody, but I don't really see us as two towns. I mean, we all have distinct characteristics, but when it comes to the schools, we are one town, and people were really willing to open their homes to us and talk to us and let us work through some of our answers to questions. And they were. I have to say that the people that we were able to meet really want the best for every single student. That can't be denied.
And the last thing I want to ask you is one of the things that was also interesting was Wayne Eastman became the first board president in almost 10 years to lose re-election. What do you think that says about the current board, or about how people really wanted change? Although Ms. Pai was re-elected, but he is the face of the board in many ways as president, and he was defeated. Does it say anything about that kind of leadership? People want that kind of change, or is it just incumbent versus challenger?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think it's the latter.
Yeah, it's probably more the latter, and I mean, Wayne also, Mr. Eastman, was able to lead the board through the selection process for a superintendent with unanimous -1 abstain. That is huge. I think and I think they did a very it was a comprehensive process. I think they included the community, and I'm not quite sure if all of that was under Beth or under Wayne. The board as a whole, whether whoever was leading it in the first months of the search, wanted to include as many people as possible. They did report that their first round of interviews didn't yield anyone that they wanted to move forward with, and they went back and they waited and they found Dr. Ramos, and I think that takes quite a bit of leadership and cohesion and willingness to work through. I also think the openness of the Kiva that they experienced in August. Was that August? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was August or early September. And, when we were at the back to school, meet Dr. Ramos, welcome speeches, I forgot what he labeled it. It was, I think, the second week in September. Miss Grierson, Miss Turner, Miss Pai, Mr. Eastman, Miss Doherty, I think, also was there. They all shared really emotional feelings that they were able to, come to the conclusion that they all really want the best for every student. So I think the board had, maybe they had a tough year this year, but I wouldn't say that it was. I forgot what word you used, but whatever. But yeah.
That they were, because the Mr. Eastman was voted out as president.
Yeah.
That hadn't been done in a long time.
Yeah.
And I think most people would agree with you that there was a lot to handle and a lot of issues that came up. But we will let you go. Again, thank you, Anne-Marie Maney and Chris Sabin. Do you have anything else you want to add before we let you go? And again, I appreciate your time. You've got a million things going on, I'm sure.
A lot of things, a lot of thank yous to send out to family, friends, but people who helped out on the campaign and just really hit the ground and start working for both of us. But tomorrow, well, I think things have been going on before since since Wednesday. But we're excited.
Yes, well, I think a lot of people are excited. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we just, both Chris and I hope that people will continue to speak with us and search us out and stop us. And, we we need people to be involved, and we hope to meet everyone at the summit tomorrow.
Excellent. Again, thank you both, and good luck,
Thank
and we'll
you,
be
Joe.
bothering you again, I'm sure.
Please.
Thank you.
Joe.
Be well.
Bye-bye.